The child's screams are silent. That's the first thing you need to understand about this story. When a 3-year-old girl is terrified beyond measure, when her small body is shaking so hard her bones might shatter, when tears are streaming down her face in rivers that won't stop, her mouth opens, but no sound comes out. Princess Isla has never spoken a single word in her entire life. And tonight, she's running through a forest that wants to swallow her whole. The storm overhead isn't just rain. It's the sky tearing itself apart. Lightning cracks like bones breaking, illuminating the ancient pines for a split second before plunging everything back into darkness, so complete it feels like drowning. The ground beneath her tiny bare feet is mud and roots and something that might be blood, but she can't stop. She can't stop because they're behind her. The rogues. They smell like rot and madness and something metallic that makes her wolf, the tiny, terrified thing curled up inside her chest. Whimper and press closer to her heart. Isla's white nightgown is torn at the hem, clinging to her small frame like a ghost. Her hair, silver blonde, the mark of her father's bloodline, is plastered to her face and neck. She's so small. Just 3 years old. Just a baby, really. And she's alone in these woods because the palace fell. Because her father, the Alpha King, is dead. She doesn't understand death yet. Not really. She just knows that Daddy stopped moving. That there was so much red. That the men with the yellow eyes dragged him away while she hid in the servants' passage, her nanny's hand clamped over her mouth to keep her silent. Not that she would have made a sound anyway. She never does. The forest is alive with hunting calls. Howls that aren't quite wolf and aren't quite human, something twisted in between. The rogues are close. So close she can hear their claws tearing into bark, can hear their panting breaths that sound like laughter. Isla's legs are so tired. Her lungs burn. There's a stitch in her side that feels like someone's stabbing her with every step. But she runs. Because that's what Nanny told her to do before she shoved Isla out the hidden door and locked it behind her. Run, little princess. Run and don't stop. Find the Moonshadow Pack. Find Alpha Daemon. He'll protect you. Isla doesn't know who Alpha Daemon is. She doesn't know where the Moonshadow Pack lives. She just knows she has to run. Her foot catches on an exposed root and she goes down hard. The impact knocks what little air she has left from her lungs. She tastes copper and dirt. Her palms are scraped raw, bleeding. For a moment, she can't move. Can't breathe. The world spins and the rain is so loud and everything hurts. Get up. The voice in her head isn't hers. It's older. Ancient. It rumbles through her consciousness like thunder through mountains. Get up, little flame. You are not made for dying in the mud. Isla doesn't understand the words, but she feels them in her bones. She pushes herself up on shaking arms. Her knees are bleeding too now. She can feel the warm trickle mixing with the rain. She's covered in mud and leaves and her nightgown is barely white anymore. Behind her, a howl splits the night. They've found her trail. Terror floods her system with ice-cold adrenaline. She stumbles forward, breaking into a desperate, clumsy run. Tree branches whip at her face and arms, leaving stinging welts. The forest is a maze of shadows and the storm makes it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. She doesn't know where she's going. She just runs. Minutes blur together. Or maybe it's hours. Time doesn't work right when you're 3 years old and running for your life. Everything is the pounding of her heart and the burning of her lungs and the silent screams trapped in her throat. Then the ground disappears. 1 second she's running, the next she's falling. Rolling down a steep embankment, small body tumbling over rocks and through thorny bushes. She tries to grab onto something, anything, but her hands are too small and everything's too slippery. She hits the bottom with a splash. Water. She's landed in a stream, shallow but ice-cold. The current tries to pull her downstream, but she manages to grab onto a rock, hauling herself partially out of the water. She's shaking so hard her teeth are chattering, lying half in the stream with her cheek pressed against the muddy bank. She can't run anymore. Her body won't move. Above her, at the top of the embankment, she hears them. The rogues. Sniffing. Snarling. Arguing in broken, guttural voices about which direction she went. Isla closes her eyes and makes herself as small as possible. She's learned this, how to be invisible. How to take up no space. How to barely breathe so no one notices her. At the palace, before everything fell apart, she was the silent princess. The broken one. The Alpha King's greatest shame because his heir couldn't even speak. She learned early that when she made herself very small and very quiet, people forgot she was there. So she does that now. She makes herself nothing. The rogues' voices grow fainter. They're moving away, following a false trail deeper into the woods. But Isla knows they'll be back. They always come back. She's so cold. So tired. The stream water is numbing her legs and the rain shows no sign of stopping. Her eyes are so heavy. Maybe if she just rests for a moment. Just closes her eyes for a second. The darkness reaches for her with gentle hands. And she lets it take her. Before we go any further, if you're already feeling what this little girl is feeling, if your heart is already breaking for her, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button for Cindy's Wolfheart stories, because we're just getting started. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, and whether you think Isla will survive the night. Because the forest isn't done with her yet. Not by a long shot. She wakes to warmth. That's wrong. She should be cold. Should be in the stream with the rain pounding down and the rogues circling back to find her. But she's warm. Isla's eyes flutter open. Everything's blurry at first, then slowly comes into focus. She's no longer by the stream. She's in a small wooden cabin, lying on a bed that's too big for her. Someone has wrapped her in blankets, thick, soft blankets that smell like pine and something else. Something that makes her wolf stir for the first time since the attack. Something safe. The cabin is simple. One room with rough wooden walls. A stone fireplace crackles across from the bed, casting dancing shadows. There's a small kitchen area with handmade cabinets. A table with 2 chairs. A bookshelf crammed with worn volumes. Everything is clean but worn, lived in. And in the chair beside the fireplace, watching her with eyes that glow amber in the firelight, is a woman. She's young. Maybe mid-20s. Long dark hair falls in waves past her shoulders. She wears a simple brown dress with a thick knitted shawl wrapped around her shoulders. Her feet are bare. She's beautiful in a quiet way, the kind of beauty that sneaks up on you, that grows the longer you look. But that's not what holds Isla's attention. It's her scent. The woman smells like rain-washed earth and wild chamomile, and something underneath that Isla has never encountered before. Something that makes her wolf, her tiny, terrified wolf, uncurl from its defensive ball and creep forward with cautious interest. The woman doesn't move, doesn't speak, just watches Isla with eyes that are impossibly kind. Isla's fingers grip the blanket tighter. Her heart is pounding again, but it's different from the terror in the forest. This is uncertainty. She doesn't know this woman. Doesn't know where she is. Doesn't know if she's safe or if this is just another trap. You're awake. The woman's voice is soft. Gentle. The kind of voice you use with injured animals so you don't spook them. Isla doesn't respond. Can't respond. Her throat works, but no sound comes out. The woman doesn't seem bothered by the silence. She rises slowly from her chair, moving with careful, deliberate grace. Like she's trying not to frighten a wild thing. You were in the stream, she says, crossing to a small stove where a pot is simmering. Halfway to drowning and frozen nearly solid. I'm surprised you didn't get hypothermia. She ladles something from the pot into a wooden bowl. Steam rises, carrying the scent of herbs and chicken and vegetables. Isla's stomach clenches with sudden, desperate hunger. She can't remember the last time she ate. The woman brings the bowl over and sets it on the small table beside the bed. Then she backs away, giving Isla space. I'm Arya, she says. I live here alone. Well, alone except for the occasional lost child who washes up in my stream. There's no accusation in her voice. No demand for explanation. She's just stating facts. Isla stares at the bowl of soup. Her hands are shaking as she reaches for it. Someone has bandaged her palms and knees. White cloth wrapped carefully around the scrapes. She doesn't remember that happening. She manages to grip the bowl and brings it to her lips. The soup is perfect, not too hot, savory, and rich. She drinks it desperately, barely chewing the chunks of chicken and vegetables. Arya watches her with an expression that's hard to read. Not pity, exactly. Something gentler than that. You don't have to tell me anything, Arya says after Isla finishes the soup. Not yet. Not until you're ready. But you're safe here. Do you understand? Whatever you're running from, it can't reach you here. Isla wants to believe that. Wants it so badly it physically hurts. But she knows better. Nowhere is safe. Her father was the Alpha King, the most powerful shifter in the realm, and they killed him. Tore him apart in his own palace while his guards tried and failed to stop them. If they could get to him, they can get to anyone. Arya seems to read something in Isla's expression because she sighs softly. You've seen something terrible, haven't you? Something no child should ever see. Isla's eyes burn with tears she refuses to let fall. It's okay, Arya says gently. You don't have to be strong right now. You're just a baby. You're allowed to be scared. The kindness in those words breaks something in Isla's chest. A sob tries to fight its way up her throat, but it dies before it reaches her lips. Silent. Always silent. Tears spill down her cheeks instead. Arya moves without thinking. Crosses the space between them and sits on the edge of the bed. She doesn't grab Isla, doesn't force contact. She just opens her arms in invitation. And Isla, who has been alone in the dark for so long, who has been running on terror and adrenaline and nothing else, collapses into those arms like a drowning person reaching for shore. Arya holds her as she cries. Silent, shaking sobs that rack her tiny frame. Holds her and rocks her gently and murmurs wordless comfort against her silver blonde hair. I've got you, Arya whispers. I've got you, little one. You're safe now. Isla doesn't believe it. But God, she wants to. They fall into a strange sort of routine over the next 3 days. Isla sleeps most of the first day, waking only to eat the food Arya brings her and immediately falling back into exhausted unconsciousness. Her body is trying to heal from the trauma of that night. The running, the cold, the terror. When she's finally awake for longer periods, she discovers that Arya's cabin is at the edge of pack territory. The Moonshadow Pack, Arya tells her quietly. The pack Isla's nanny told her to find. I'm not officially pack, Arya explains as she kneads bread dough on the kitchen counter. Isla sits at the table, wearing one of Arya's shirts that hangs on her like a dress, watching. I'm Omega. I live on the borders, help with healing, keep to myself mostly. Isla doesn't fully understand pack dynamics yet. She knows her father was Alpha. Knows there are ranks and hierarchies and rules about who has power and who doesn't. But the way Arya says Omega, there's something in her voice. Not quite shame, but not pride either. Resignation, maybe. The Alpha tolerates me because I'm useful, Arya continues, shaping the dough into a loaf. I have a gift for healing. For growing things. The pack members come to me when they're hurt or sick, when the pack doctors can't help them. I fix them up, they leave offerings at my door, and everyone pretends I don't exist the rest of the time. She says it matter-of-factly, but Isla hears the loneliness underneath. Isla knows about being invisible. About people pretending you don't exist. Maybe that's why she doesn't flinch when Arya comes close. Why she lets this stranger brush her hair and check her healing wounds and tuck her into bed at night. Because Arya is broken too, in a way Isla can feel even if she can't name it. On the third evening, as the sun is setting and painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, there's a knock at the door. Arya's entire body goes tense. She's at the stove, stirring a pot of stew, and the wooden spoon freezes mid-motion. Stay quiet, she whispers to Isla, who's curled up in the chair by the fire with a picture book. Don't come out. Isla's heart starts pounding. She shrinks further into the chair, making herself small. Arya crosses to the door and opens it just a crack. Alpha. Her voice is different. Careful. Submissive in a way it hasn't been with Isla. Arya. The voice from outside is male. Deep. Commanding. May I come in? Of course, Alpha. Arya steps back and the door opens fully. The man who enters makes the cabin feel suddenly very small. He's tall, well over 6 feet. Broad-shouldered and powerfully built in a way that speaks of both strength and violence, held carefully in check. His hair is dark, nearly black, and he wears it slightly long. His eyes are that distinctive amber that marks powerful wolves. He's dressed simply: dark pants, boots, a shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle. He's maybe 30. And he radiates authority the way the sun radiates heat, impossible to ignore. This is Alpha Daemon. It has to be. His gaze sweeps the cabin and lands immediately on Isla huddled in the chair. He goes completely still. Who, he says slowly, his voice dropping to something dangerous, is that? Arya moves slightly, positioning herself between Daemon and Isla in a gesture that's probably instinctive. A child. I found her in the stream 3 days ago. She was dying. A child. Daemon's eyes narrow. He takes a step closer and Isla shrinks back. That's not just any child, Arya. Look at her hair. Arya's jaw tightens. I know what she is. Then you know keeping her here is. Is what? Wrong? She's 3 years old, Daemon. She was terrified and alone and half dead from exposure. What was I supposed to do? Leave her to die? It's the first time Isla's heard Arya speak to someone with anything other than careful deference. There's steel in her voice now. Protectiveness. Daemon's expression shifts: surprise, maybe, or respect. The palace fell 6 days ago. Every pack in the realm received word. The Alpha King and his entire court were slaughtered by a rogue faction. They say his daughter was taken. They say wrong. She's valuable, Arya. Worth a fortune in ransom or as a political pawn. The moment anyone discovers she's here, then don't tell anyone. Silence. Daemon stares at Arya like he's seeing her for the first time. You're asking me to harbor a fugitive princess in my territory. I'm asking you to protect a child. More silence. Isla watches the standoff with wide eyes, her small hands gripping the picture book so hard the pages crumple. Finally, Daemon's gaze shifts back to her. When he moves, it's slow and deliberate, crossing the cabin in a few long strides until he's crouching in front of her chair. At her eye level. Hello, little one. His voice is gentler now. Still commanding, but softer around the edges. Isla doesn't respond. Can't. What's your name? She just stares at him. Daemon's brow furrows. He looks over his shoulder at Arya. Does she speak? She hasn't said a word since I found her. Trauma? Or something else? Arya moves closer. I've heard stories about the Alpha King's daughter. They say she was born mute. Daemon's expression shifts, something complicated passing through his eyes. Pity? No. Something deeper than that. Understanding, maybe. He turns back to Isla. Can you write? Nod if you can. Isla hesitates, then shakes her head no. Too young, Arya murmurs. She's barely more than a baby. Daemon studies Isla for a long moment. Then, slowly, he extends his hand, not to touch her, just offering. Palm up. An invitation, not a demand. I'm Daemon, he says quietly. Alpha of the Moonshadow Pack. Your father, he was a friend of mine. A long time ago, before politics got in the way. I owed him a debt I never got to repay. Isla's eyes widen slightly. Her father knew this man? I can't bring him back, Daemon continues, his voice steady and honest. I can't undo what happened to you. But I can keep you safe. Both of you. He glances at Arya when he says that last part. The rogues who attacked your palace, they'll be looking for you. They need you dead to secure their claim to your father's territory. But they won't find you here. Not if we're smart about it. Isla's hand, almost without her conscious decision, reaches out. Her tiny fingers brush Daemon's palm. His hand closes gently around hers. Warm. Solid. Real. You have my protection, little princess. My oath on it. And for the first time since that terrible night, Isla feels something other than terror. She feels the tiniest spark of hope. The nightmares come every time Isla closes her eyes. In them, she's back in the palace. Back in her bedroom with the painted ceiling full of stars and moons that Daddy had commissioned just for her. Back in her silk nightgown with her stuffed wolf tucked under her arm. And then the screaming starts. Not her screaming, she's never made a sound in her life. But everyone else. The guards. The servants. Her nanny. Her father. In the nightmares, she sees more than she did that night. Her 3-year-old mind has filled in the gaps with images from the darkest corners of her imagination. She sees the rogues tearing through the palace halls. Sees them ripping apart anyone who stands between them and the royal quarters. Sees them surrounding her father in his throne room. He fights. Oh, he fights. The Alpha King in his prime, powerful beyond measure. She can see his wolf, massive and silver white, larger than any normal shifter. He takes down 5 rogues, 10, 20. But there are too many. And they're not normal rogues. There's something wrong with them. Something twisted. Their eyes glow the wrong color, sickly yellow instead of the natural amber or gold of healthy wolves. Their movements are jerky, too fast, like something else is pupating their bodies. They swarm her father like insects. And when they're done, there's nothing left but blood and silver white fur scattered across the throne room floor. Isla wakes from these nightmares gasping silently, tears streaming down her face, her small body rigid with terror. Every single time, Arya is there. Somehow she always knows. She'll appear in the doorway of the small bedroom, lit by moonlight, and cross to the bed without a word. She never asks if Isla's okay. She can see she's not. She just climbs into the bed and pulls Isla against her chest, humming something low and wordless until Isla's breathing slows and the shaking stops. It's okay to be afraid, Arya whispers into her hair one night, after a particularly bad nightmare. It's okay to hurt. You don't have to be brave all the time, sweet girl. Not here. Not with me. Isla clings to her nightgown and wishes desperately that she could speak. That she could tell Arya about the nightmares. About how she can still smell the blood. About how she's terrified that the rogues will find her and finish what they started. About how she's broken in a way that can never be fixed. Because that's what she is, isn't it? Broken. She's known it her whole life. The memories come in fragments during the day. Isla will be sitting at the table, eating the breakfast Arya prepared, and suddenly she's 3 years younger. Still in the palace. Still living in the strange limbo of being the crown princess who couldn't speak. She remembers the healers. So many healers. They came from all over the realm, summoned by her father's desperate orders. Wolf healers. Human doctors. Witch healers who smelled like sage and smoke. Even a fae healer once, with pointed ears and eyes that swirled like galaxies. They all examined her, poked and prodded and ran their tests. And they all came to the same conclusion. There was nothing physically wrong with her. Her vocal cords were intact. Her hearing was perfect. Her tongue and jaw and teeth all formed correctly. She simply didn't speak. Some said it was psychological. Trauma from birth, maybe, though no one could identify what that trauma might be. Her birth had been normal. Healthy. Her mother died 2 years later from illness, but Isla had been speaking, or should have been speaking long before then. Others whispered darker things. Cursed, they said when they thought she couldn't hear. The Alpha King's bloodline tainted somehow. Maybe this was punishment for his father's sins. The old king had been brutal, cruel, had made many enemies. Maybe the sins of the grandfather had fallen on the granddaughter. Isla learned to read people's faces before she learned to read words. Learned to see the disappointment in her father's eyes every time another healer shook their head. Learned to recognize pity and fear and disgust in the expressions of court members who looked at her. The broken princess. The mute heir. The child who would never be able to lead her people because how could an alpha who couldn't even speak ever command respect? She learned to make herself small. To stay in her rooms. To be the invisible princess who everyone could pretend didn't exist most of the time. Her father loved her, she knew that. Knew it in the way he'd spend hours reading to her before bed, doing different voices for all the characters even though she never laughed or responded. Knew it in the way he'd carry her through the palace gardens on his shoulders, pointing out flowers and birds and telling her their names. Knew it in the way his eyes would sometimes fill with tears when he looked at her, when he thought she wasn't paying attention. But loving her didn't mean he understood her. No one did. Tell me about your gift. Aria's voice pulls Isla from her memories. They're in the small garden behind the cabin, Aria's herb garden, where she grows the plants she uses for healing. Isla is sitting on a wooden bench, watching Aria weed between rows of lavender and sage. Aria doesn't look at her when she speaks, just keeps working. The servants at the palace, before I came here, when I still tried to be part of normal pack life, they used to whisper about the Alpha King's daughter. Said she had power unlike anything they'd ever seen. Power that scared even her father. Isla's hands clench in her lap. They said that's why you couldn't speak. That your power was so strong, keeping it contained took all your energy. That if you ever learned to control it, you'd be the most powerful shifter in generations. Aria sits back on her heels, finally turning to look at Isla. Is that true? Isla doesn't know how to answer that. She doesn't know if it's true. She just knows that sometimes, when she's really upset or really scared, things happen. Bad things. There was the time when she was 2.5. One of the court members had grabbed her roughly, trying to force her to bow to some visiting dignitary. She'd been terrified, crying silently, and then the man's hand had burst into silver flame. Not red or orange fire. Silver. Like moonlight given heat. He'd screamed and dropped her, and palace guards had rushed in with water, but by the time they'd extinguished it, his hand was badly burned. No one could explain it. The healers said it was impossible, shifters couldn't command fire. That was witch magic, elemental magic, something entirely different from what wolves could do. But Isla had felt it. Had felt the power coiling in her chest, hot and bright and terrifying. Had felt it pour out through her fear and rage and helplessness. After that, people stopped touching her. Problem solved. But the fear in their eyes only grew worse. I'll take your silence as confirmation, Aria says gently. She stands, brushing dirt from her dress, and comes to sit beside Isla on the bench. Power isn't a curse, you know. Even power that scares people. Isla looks at her doubtfully. I'm serious. Aria tucks a strand of dark hair behind her ear. I have a gift too. Not like yours, nothing so dramatic. But I can feel growing things. Can encourage them to heal faster, to grow stronger. That's why my garden thrives even in poor soil. That's why my healing works better than the pack doctors sometimes. She's quiet for a moment, staring at her hands. But being gifted as an Omega, that's complicated. Omegas are supposed to be weak. Submissive. We're not supposed to have power. So the pack, they don't know what to do with me. They need me, but they don't want to need me. So they keep me out here. Close enough to use, far enough to ignore. Isla's small hand finds Aria's larger one. A gesture of comfort, or maybe solidarity. Aria smiles sadly and squeezes her fingers. We're both broken in our own ways, aren't we? Too much power in a body too small, and not enough power in a rank too low. Maybe that's why we found each other. She stands, pulling Isla up with her. Come on. I'll teach you about the herbs. Just because you can't speak doesn't mean you can't learn. The days blur together in a strange sort of peace. Isla learns the herbs. Learns which ones are for fever and which for pain. Learns how to harvest them without damaging the plants. Learns how to dry them and store them and mix them into salves and teas. She can't speak the names, but she learns them anyway. Commits them to memory. Lavender for calm. Sage for cleansing. Chamomile for sleep. Yarrow for wounds. Aria is endlessly patient. She doesn't talk down to Isla, doesn't treat her like she's stupid just because she can't respond. She explains everything carefully, shows her how to do things with her hands, praises her when she gets it right. It's the most attention Isla's ever received that doesn't come with disappointment attached. At night, after dinner, Aria reads to her. Not children's stories, Isla's had enough of those. Instead, Arya reads from her own books. Stories about ancient wolf packs. About the first shifters who learned to walk between human and wolf. About the moon goddess who blessed them with their gifts. And sometimes about prophecies. This one's old, Arya says one night, reading from a leather-bound volume that smells like dust and time. From before the great packs formed. It talks about a child born of silver light. A child who carries fire in her veins and the voice of the ancients in her throat. Isla's listening, but not really. She's playing with a small carved wolf that Damon brought her on his last visit. He comes every few days, checking on them, bringing supplies, making sure they're safe. When the realm breaks, Arya continues reading. When blood and betrayal tear the old ways apart, the silver child will speak. And her words will remake the world. She closes the book thoughtfully. You know, some of the old prophecies are about you. About the Alpha King's line. Your great-great-grandmother was supposed to be descended from the moon goddess herself. Direct bloodline. Isla looks up, interested despite herself. The power in your family doesn't come from nowhere, sweet girl. It comes from ancient magic. From the very first wolves who walked these lands. Arya sets the book aside. That's probably why you're so strong. Why the fire answers to you even though it shouldn't. She meets Isla's eyes. And why, when you finally do speak, the whole realm is going to listen. It's Damon who suggests the shrine. He arrives one morning with more supplies and an expression that's hard to read, part determination, part something that might be worry. We need to do something about her, he says to Arya quietly, though Isla can hear from where she's sitting by the fire. She's gotten good at being invisible again, at listening without seeming to. What do you mean? Arya's voice is instantly protective. She has power. Ancient power, if the stories are true. But she doesn't know how to control it. She's 3 years old, Damon. I know. But she won't always be. And that power isn't going to wait until she's ready. He runs a hand through his dark hair. The rogues are still looking for her. They've been circling our borders for weeks. It's only a matter of time before they get bold enough to cross into pack territory. They wouldn't dare. Not against the Moonshadow Pack. They killed the Alpha King, Damon says flatly. They're either very brave or very stupid. Either way, they're dangerous. He glances at Isla, and she quickly looks away, pretending to be absorbed in her book. We need to awaken her power properly. Help her learn to control it before it controls her. And how do you propose we do that? There's a place. Deep in pack territory. An old shrine to the moon goddess. It's been there since before the packs formed, maybe longer. The elders say it still holds power, that wolves with gifts can connect to their abilities there. Arya is quiet for a long moment. Those shrines are dangerous. Especially for children. Everything about this situation is dangerous. More silence. Then Arya sighs. When? Tonight. When the moon is full. That's when the shrine is strongest. They set out just after sunset. Isla is bundled in a warm cloak that's far too big for her, one of Arya's that's been pinned and tucked to keep it from dragging on the ground. Arya holds her hand as they walk, and Damon leads the way, moving through the forest with the confident ease of someone who knows these woods like the back of his hand. The moon is rising, huge and silver and almost painfully bright. Isla can feel it pulling at something inside her. Something that lives beneath her ribs and wraps around her heart. Her wolf, maybe. Or the power that everyone keeps talking about. She doesn't know the difference yet. They walk for over an hour. Deep into the forest, following paths that aren't really paths, just spaces between trees that seem to open up for Damon and close behind them. The deeper they go, the older the trees become. These aren't normal pines and oaks. These are ancient things, twisted and massive, their trunks wider than a grown man's arm span. Their branches tangle overhead, filtering the moonlight into strange patterns. The forest feels alive. Aware. Like it's watching them. Isla presses closer to Arya's side. Almost there, Damon says quietly. And then they break through the tree line into a clearing, and Isla's breath catches. The shrine is beautiful. It's a circle of standing stones, each one taller than Damon and covered in moss and carvings that seem to shift in the moonlight. At the center of the circle is a flat stone altar, and behind it, carved into the largest standing stone, is the image of a wolf howling at a crescent moon. But it's not just stone and carving. The entire clearing pulses with energy. Isla can feel it against her skin like static electricity, making the fine hairs on her arms stand up. The air tastes different here, sharper, cleaner, like breathing lightning. And the moonlight. The moonlight here is different too. It doesn't just illuminate. It seems to pour into the clearing like liquid silver, pooling on the altar stone and reflecting off the standing stones in patterns that hurt to look at directly. This place is sacred, Damon says quietly, and there's reverence in his voice. The first wolves built it. Before there were packs or territories or politics. When we were still learning what we were. Aria's hand tightens on Isla's. Are you sure about this? No, Damon admits. But I'm sure doing nothing is worse. He kneels down to Isla's level, his amber eyes serious. I need you to trust me, little one. Can you do that? Isla hesitates, then nods. The shrine will test you. It's going to show you things, memories, fears, maybe glimpses of who you could become. It might be frightening, but you have to stay in the circle. Don't run. Don't let the fear win. Can you be brave? Isla's not sure she can. She's not sure she's ever been brave in her entire life. But she nods anyway. Because what choice does she have? Damon stands and looks at Aria. She needs to be alone in the circle. The magic won't work if we're with her. Absolutely not. Aria's voice is steel. She's 3 years old. I know, but those are the rules. The shrine responds to the individual. If we interfere, we could damage her connection to her power permanently. Or the shrine could hurt her. It won't. Not if she's meant to be here. And if she's descended from the first wolves like the legends say, she's meant to be here. Aria looks down at Isla, conflict written across her face. Sweet girl, I don't. Isla squeezes her hand and lets go. It's the closest she can get to saying, I'll be okay. Even though she's terrified. Even though every instinct is screaming at her to run. She walks into the circle of stones. The moment she crosses the threshold, everything changes. The forest sounds cut off like someone's thrown a switch. No more wind in the trees. No more night birds calling. No more rustling of small animals in the undergrowth. Just silence. And the moonlight. It's so bright now it's almost blinding. Isla has to squint as she makes her way to the center altar. Her small feet leave prints in the moss and lichen that carpets the ground, the only sign that anyone's walked here in a very long time. She reaches the altar and stops. Waits. Nothing happens. She glances back at Aria and Damon standing just outside the circle. They're watching intently, but they seem very far away. Like she's looking at them through thick glass. Isla turns back to the altar. Still nothing. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she's not powerful enough. Maybe. The moonlight moves. It shouldn't be able to move. Moonlight doesn't move like that. But this does. It flows across the altar like water, like something alive, and then it rises. Forms a shape. A wolf. Made entirely of silver light, standing on the altar and looking down at Isla with eyes that are both empty and infinitely knowing. Isla stumbles backward, heart hammering in her chest. The wolf doesn't move. Just watches her. And then it speaks. Not out loud. It has no mouth, no vocal cords, nothing physical at all. But Isla hears the voice in her mind, ancient and feminine and patient. Child of silver. Child of flame. Why have you come? Isla's mouth opens, but no sound comes out. As always. You cannot speak. The wolf tilts its head. But I can hear you anyway. Think your answer, little one. I will know. Isla's thoughts are a jumbled mess of fear and confusion. She doesn't know why she's here. Damon brought her. Said she needed to awaken her power. Your power has always been awake, the wolf says, amused. You've simply been too frightened to acknowledge it. Is that true? You are the last of the silver bloodline. the last child born with the moon goddess's gift in your veins. Your great-great-grandmother stood where you stand now, 300 years ago. She spoke to me then, as you speak to me now. Isla's eyes widen. Her great-great-grandmother? She asked me to help her people. The packs were at war, tearing each other apart. She wanted power enough to stop them. To force peace. The wolf's form ripples like water disturbed by wind. I gave her what she asked for. Fire that answered only to her bloodline. A weapon so powerful that no one would dare challenge her family again. Isla remembers the silver flames. The way they burned the courier's hand. The way everyone had looked at her afterward, terrified. But power comes with a price, the wolf continues. Your great-great-grandmother learned that too late. The fire was strong. Too strong. It wanted to be used. And use it she did, until there was no one left to challenge her. Until she ruled not through respect but through fear. The wolf lowers its head, almost sadly. The fire consumed her in the end. Burned her from the inside out until there was nothing left but ash and legend. Isla's hands are shaking. Is that what's going to happen to her? Is she going to burn up from the inside? That depends on you, child. The fire is your birthright. But it doesn't have to be your master. You can learn to control it. To use it without letting it use you. How? Isla thinks desperately. I'm just a baby. I can't even speak. Your voice is the key, the wolf says. The fire is tied to your voice. To your truth. That's why it terrifies you. That's why you've kept silent your whole life, because somewhere deep inside, you know that when you speak, everything will change. Isla doesn't understand. You will, the wolf promises. But not yet. You're too young. Too fragile. If you try to speak now, the fire would consume you the way it consumed your ancestor. Then why am I here? Because you need to know what you are. What you could become. And because I wanted to give you a choice. The wolf steps closer and Isla instinctively backs up until her small body hits one of the standing stones. You can keep the power locked away. Never speak. Never risk the fire. Live a small, quiet life in the shadows, and the realm will forget you ever existed. You'll be safe. Isla's breathing hard now, pressed against the stone. Or you can choose to embrace it. To learn. To grow into the power that terrifies you so much. It will be hard. Painful. You will lose things you love. People will fear you. Some will try to kill you. The wolf is right in front of her now, its silver light so bright Isla has to close her eyes. But you will be free. Truly free. You will speak, and the realm will listen. You will burn, and from those ashes, something new will rise. Isla's heart is pounding so hard it hurts. So choose, little princess. Safety or freedom. Silence or fire. What will it be? Isla doesn't know. She's 3 years old. How's she supposed to make a choice like this? But then she thinks about her father. About how he loved her even though she couldn't speak. About how he died trying to protect her. About how the rogues are still out there, still hunting her, still wanting her dead. She thinks about Arya. About the way she held her during the nightmares. About how she never looked at Isla with disappointment or fear. About how she said power wasn't a curse. She thinks about Damon. About how he called her father a friend. About how he promised to protect her even though he barely knows her. And she realizes something. She's tired of being afraid. Tired of being small. Tired of letting the fear control her. She opens her eyes and looks directly at the silver wolf. I choose fire. The wolf's form explodes into brilliant light. Silver flames erupt around Isla, engulfing her completely. She should be burning. Should be dying. But the flames don't hurt. They feel like coming home. The fire pours into her chest, into that place where her power lives, coiled and waiting. She can feel it settling in her bones, in her blood, in every cell of her body. It's too much. Too big. Her small frame can't possibly contain this much power. But somehow it does. The wolf's voice echoes in her mind one last time. When the time comes. When you're ready. Speak your truth, little flame. And watch the realm burn. Then the light vanishes. Isla collapses onto the altar, gasping silently. She wakes in Aria's arms. They're back at the cabin. She doesn't remember the walk. Doesn't remember leaving the shrine. Everything feels different now. The power in her chest is still there, but it's quieter. Patient. Like a sleeping dragon that knows it will wake when it's needed. You scared us, Aria whispers, pressing a kiss to her forehead. You were unconscious for hours. We thought, her voice breaks. We thought we'd lost you. Damon is there too, standing by the fireplace looking haggard. What happened in there? Isla can't tell them. Can't explain. But she meets Damon's eyes and gives a small nod. He understands. It worked. I don't know if worked is the right word, Aria says, still holding Isla tight. She's exhausted. Whatever that shrine did to her. It awakened her properly. Damon interrupts gently. Look. He points to Isla's hands. Her palms are glowing. Not bright, just a faint silver shimmer. Like moonlight trapped beneath her skin. The mark of the goddess, Damon breathes. I've only seen it in ancient texts. Never on a living person. Aria stares at Isla's hands, then at her face. What does it mean? It means the prophecies are true. She's not just powerful. She's chosen. Chosen for what? Damon's expression is grim. To reshape the realm. One way or another. They come 3 days later. Isla is in the garden with Aria, learning how to transplant seedlings, when the first howl cuts through the afternoon quiet. It's not a wolf howl. Not entirely. There's something wrong with it, something that makes Isla's new power flare in her chest in warning. Aria goes rigid. Inside. Now. She doesn't have to tell Isla twice. They run for the cabin, but before they reach the door, figures emerge from the tree line. 5 of them. All in human form, but barely. Their skin is mottled gray. Their eyes glow that sickly yellow Isla remembers from the nightmares. They move wrong, joints bending at angles that shouldn't be possible. Rogues. The same ones who killed her father. Well, the largest one says, his voice like gravel grinding together. The little princess. We've been looking everywhere for you. Aria shoves Isla behind her, standing between the child and the monsters. Leave. Now. You're on Moonshadow Pact territory. Alpha Damon will. Alpha Damon isn't here, the rogue interrupts. Funny how that works out. Almost like someone told us when he'd be away. Aria's face goes pale. A betrayal. Someone in the pack told them. Just give us the girl, another rogue says, circling around to the left. We don't want to hurt you, Omega. You're not worth the effort. You're not touching her. We weren't asking permission. They attack. The rogues move impossibly fast, converging on Aria and Isla from multiple angles. Aria shifts, her bones cracking and reforming, her body flowing into wolf form in seconds. She's smaller than the rogues, built for speed rather than strength, but she fights like something possessed. She takes down the first rogue with a slash across his throat. The second she dodges, letting his momentum carry him past her, then tears into his hindquarters. But there are too many. One of them gets past her defenses and slams into her side, sending her flying into the cabin wall with a sickening thud. She yelps, the first sound of pain Isla's ever heard from her, and struggles to get up, but her leg is bent at the wrong angle. Broken. The rogues turn their attention to Isla. She's frozen. Terror has her locked in place, unable to move, unable to think. Her small body is shaking so hard her teeth are chattering. The largest rogue shifts back to human form as he approaches her. He's grotesque, scars and poorly healed wounds covering his torso, his face twisted into something barely recognizable as human. Nothing personal, princess, he says, reaching for her. Just business. Can't have the old king's heir running around, can we? Might complicate things. His hand closes around her arm. And that's when something inside Isla snaps. The power she's been holding so carefully, so quietly, explodes outward. Silver flames erupt from her small body, engulfing the rogue's arm. He screams a horrible, agonized sound and jerks away, but the fire doesn't stop. It spreads up his arm, across his chest, consuming him in seconds. He's still screaming when he hits the ground, thrashing, trying to put out flames that won't be extinguished. The other rogues stare in horror. Isla stares at her hands. They're wreathed in silver fire, but she doesn't feel it. Doesn't feel any pain at all. Just rage. Pure, incandescent rage. For her father. For the palace. For every moment of fear and running and hiding. For Arya lying broken against the cabin wall. The fire answers her rage. It pours out of her in waves, spreading across the ground between her and the remaining rogues. They try to run, but the flames are faster. They catch the second rogue, then the third. The fourth manages to shift and sprint for the tree line, but Isla's power follows him. A tendril of silver fire snakes through the air like a living thing and wraps around his hind legs, dragging him down. His howls echo through the forest. The fifth rogue, the smartest one, drops to his knees, hands raised in surrender. Please. We were just following orders. We didn't run. The voice comes from behind Isla. Damon. He's there suddenly, materialized from the shadows, his eyes blazing with fury. He's in half-shift, his body caught between human and wolf, more dangerous than either form alone. The rogue doesn't need to be told twice. He turns and flees into the forest. Damon lets him go. His attention is on Isla, on the silver flames still dancing around her small form. Easy, he says softly, approaching slowly. Easy, little flame. They're gone. You're safe. But Isla can't stop. The power is too much, too big. It's taken over, and she doesn't know how to pull it back. Isla. Arya's voice, weak but determined. She's managed to drag herself closer, her broken leg leaving a trail through the dirt. Sweet girl, look at me. Isla turns. Tears are streaming down her face, mixing with the silver light. It's okay, Arya whispers. You did good. You protected us. But you need to let go now. The fire's going to hurt you if you don't. Isla wants to let go. Wants to pull the power back. But she doesn't know how. Focus on my voice, Arya continues. Focus on something that makes you feel safe. A memory. A feeling. Anything. Isla closes her eyes. She thinks about the first night in the cabin. About waking up warm and safe. About Arya's arms around her during the nightmares. About the way Damon looks at her, not with pity or fear, but with respect. About feeling, for the first time in her life, like she matters. Like she's not broken. The flames start to recede. Slowly, inch by inch, they pull back into her chest. The silver light fades from her hands. And then she collapses. Damon catches her before she hits the ground. She wakes to arguing. Can't stay here. Not anymore. They found her once. They'll find her again. Where else would we go? She's safe with the pack. Is she? Someone told them where she was, Arya. Someone in my pack betrayed her location. Then find out who and deal with them. I'm trying. But until I do, she's not safe here. Isla opens her eyes. She's back in her small bed, wrapped in blankets. Her body aches everywhere, like she's been hit by a truck. The power in her chest is quiet again, exhausted. Arya and Damon are on the other side of the room, talking in harsh whispers. Arya's leg is splinted and bandaged. She's leaning heavily on a crutch. She needs training, Damon is saying. Real training. Not just the shrine. Someone who can teach her to control that fire before it consumes her. And where are we supposed to find someone like that? Teachers like that don't exist anymore. The old ways died out generations ago. Not all of them. Damon's voice is grim. There's someone. In the Northern Territories. A witch who specializes in elemental magic. If anyone can help Isla, it's her. A witch. You want to send her to a witch. I want to keep her alive. And right now, that witch is our best option. Arya is quiet for a long moment. The Northern Territories are weeks away. Through dangerous country. We'd never make it with a 3-year-old. Then we don't take her. Not yet. We let her stay here, keep her hidden, and I'll go north myself. Bring the witch back here. That could take months. I know. More silence. Then Arya sighs. Fine. But I'm not letting her out of my sight until you get back. And Damon? If you get yourself killed trying to save her, I'll find a way to resurrect you just so I can kill you again myself. Despite everything, Damon laughs quietly. Noted. Isla closes her eyes and pretends to sleep. But inside, her mind is racing. She hurt people today. Killed them, actually. The rogues might have deserved it, might have been trying to kill her first, but still. She took lives. With fire she couldn't control. The wolf at the shrine said she'd have to choose. Safety or power. Silence or fire. She thought she understood what that meant. But now she realizes she didn't choose fire. Fire chose her. And the question is, can she learn to master it before it destroys her and everyone she loves? Damon leaves the next morning. He kneels down to Isla's level before he goes, his expression serious. I'll be back as soon as I can. While I'm gone, you listen to Arya. Stay close to the cabin. Don't use your power unless you absolutely have to. Isla nods. And if the rogues come back, he hesitates. If they come back and there's no other choice, you burn everything. Don't hold back. Survival first, control second. Understand? Another nod. He reaches out and ruffles her silver blonde hair gently. You're stronger than you know, little flame. Braver too. Your father would be proud of you. Then he's gone, disappearing into the forest like a shadow swallowed by trees. Isla watches from the cabin window until she can't see him anymore. He'll be okay, Arya says softly from behind her. Damon's the strongest alpha in 3 territories. Nothing's going to take him down. Isla wants to believe that. But she's learned that strong doesn't mean invincible. Her father was strong. The strongest in the realm. And he died anyway. The weeks that follow are quiet. Tense, but quiet. Arya's leg heals slowly. She can't shift with it broken. Shifting would reset the bone wrong. So she's stuck in human form, hobbling around on her crutch and trying not to let Isla see how much pain she's in. But Isla sees anyway. She helps as much as she can. Fetching things from high shelves. Tending the garden. Learning to prepare simple meals so Arya doesn't have to stand for long periods. They fall into a new rhythm. A careful dance around the elephant in the room. Namely, that Isla killed 4 rogues with fire she couldn't control, and neither of them knows when it might happen again. Arya doesn't push. Doesn't ask about the power or try to make Isla practice using it. Instead, she focuses on other things. Teaching Isla to read. It starts one evening when Arya's reading aloud from one of her herb books and Isla reaches over to trace the letters with her finger. You want to learn? Arya asks, surprised. Isla nods eagerly. All right then. We'll start with the basics. She fetches a slate and some chalk, and they spend the next hour working on letters. Isla can't say their sounds, but she can recognize their shapes. Can copy them carefully onto the slate. A, B, C. You're a natural, Arya says warmly. Look at that, yours are better than mine already. Isla beams. It's such a small thing. Such a simple accomplishment. But it's hers. For once, she's learning something not because she has to, not because it's expected of a princess, but because she wants to. And that makes all the difference. They read together every night. At first, it's just simple words. Cat. Dog. Tree. Moon. But Isla's hungry for more. She absorbs everything Arya teaches her like a plant soaking up water after a drought. Within 2 weeks, she's reading simple sentences. Within 4, she's working through children's stories on her own, only occasionally asking Arya for help with difficult words, asking by pointing and looking questioningly up. You're brilliant, Arya tells her one night, watching Isla sound out a particularly tricky word. Absolutely brilliant. Do you know that? Isla looks up, surprised. I'm serious. Most children your age can barely recognize their own names. You're reading chapter books. Arya shakes her head in wonder. That mind of yours. It's been working overtime all these years, hasn't it? Taking in everything, learning everything, just because you couldn't express it. Isla hadn't thought about it that way. But maybe Arya's right. Maybe being unable to speak forced her to pay attention differently. to notice things others missed, to learn by watching rather than asking. Maybe her silence wasn't just a curse. Maybe it was a gift too. One night, a few weeks into Damon's absence, Isla has the worst nightmare yet. In this one, she's back at the palace. But she's not hiding. She's standing in the throne room, watching the rogues tear her father apart. Only this time, she's not silent. This time, she's screaming. Silver fire pours from her mouth with every scream, filling the throne room, consuming everything. The rogues. The guards. Her father. She can't stop screaming. Can't stop the fire. It burns and burns and burns until there's nothing left but ash and the echo of her voice. She wakes gasping, tears streaming down her face. Arya's there immediately, like always. But this time, instead of just holding her, she does something different. She starts singing. It's soft. Gentle. A lullaby in a language Isla doesn't recognize, something old, from before the packs formed maybe. The melody is simple but hauntingly beautiful. It wraps around Isla like a warm blanket, pushing back the edges of the nightmare. My mother used to sing this to me, Arya whispers between verses. When I was little and the world felt too big and scary. It's an old wolf song. About the moon watching over her children even in the darkest nights. She keeps singing, rocking Isla gently. And for the first time since the nightmare started, Isla doesn't just calm down. She feels safe. Truly, deeply safe. She burrows closer to Arya, small fingers gripping the fabric of her nightgown, and lets the song carry her back towards sleep. I've got you, Arya murmurs. Always, sweet girl. Always. Days pass. Then weeks. Damon's been gone for almost 2 months when the letter arrives. A runner from the pack delivers it, a young wolf who looks nervous about approaching Arya's cabin. He leaves the sealed envelope on the doorstep and bolts before Arya can even thank him. Arya opens it with shaking hands. Isla watches anxiously as she reads, trying to decipher Arya's expression. He's alive, Arya finally says, relief flooding her voice. He found the witch. They're on their way back, but it's slow going. She's old, apparently. Can't travel as fast as he'd like. She looks at Isla. He says to tell you he's bringing someone who can help. Someone who can teach you to control the fire without fear. Isla's not sure how she feels about that. Part of her is relieved. The power scares her. She doesn't want to hurt anyone else. But another part, a smaller, quieter part, whispers that maybe she doesn't want to control it. Maybe she wants to burn. She pushes that thought away quickly. That's the fire talking. The same fire that consumed her great-great-grandmother. She won't let it consume her too. One afternoon, about a week after the letter, Arya takes Isla into the forest. Not deep, just to a small clearing about 10 minutes from the cabin. A place where the trees open up enough to let in dappled sunlight. I want to try something, Arya says, settling onto a fallen log and patting the space beside her. Isla sits, curious. You have fire, Arya begins. I have earth. Growing things. We're both elemental in our way. Different, but connected. She holds out her hand, palm up. Watch. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the air above her palm shimmers, and a tiny seedling sprouts from her skin. Not from the log or the ground, from her actual hand. It grows rapidly, unfurling delicate leaves, reaching toward the sunlight. In seconds, it's a small flowering plant with white blossoms that smell like honey. Isla's eyes go wide. It doesn't hurt, Arya says softly. It's part of me. Part of my gift. I can feel every leaf, every root, every petal. It's like having an extension of myself that exists outside my body. The plant withers as she speaks, crumbling back into her skin until there's nothing left but a faint green glow that fades quickly. Your fire's like that, Arya continues. It's part of you. An extension of who you are. It's scary because it's powerful, but it's not separate from you. It's you. Isla considers this. I know you're afraid of it, Arya says gently. I know you think it's going to hurt people you love. But fear makes it stronger. Fear makes it wild. She takes both of Isla's hands in hers. What if, instead of being afraid, you tried to understand it? To listen to it? Isla looks doubtful. I'm not saying use it. I'm just saying, sit with it. Feel it. Let it know you're not its enemy. She releases Isla's hands. Try. Just for a minute. Close your eyes and feel the fire in your chest. Don't push it away. Just acknowledge it's there. Isla's nervous, but she trusts Arya. She closes her eyes. At first, there's nothing. Just darkness and the sound of her own breathing. Then, slowly, she becomes aware of the warmth in her chest. The coiled power that's been living there since the shrine. It pulses gently, like a heartbeat, but not hers. She stops trying to ignore it, stops pushing it away, and something amazing happens. The fire responds, not with violence or explosion, just with recognition, like it's been waiting for her to acknowledge it, to accept it as part of herself. Heat blooms through her chest, but it doesn't hurt. It feels like stepping into sunlight after weeks of cold rain. Isla opens her eyes. Her hands are glowing again, that soft silver shimmer. But there are no flames. No danger. Just light. There you go, Arya whispers, smiling. See? You're not afraid of it. It's not afraid of you. You're learning to coexist. The glow fades as Isla's concentration breaks, but the feeling remains. For the first time, the fire doesn't feel like a monster inside her. It just feels like her. Damon returns on a night when the moon is dark. Isla and Arya are finishing dinner when they hear the footsteps, 2 sets, one heavier than the other. Arya goes still, listening. Then she relaxes. It's him. She opens the door before Damon can knock. He looks exhausted. His clothes are travel-worn, his face is shadowed with stubble, and there are new scars on his hands that weren't there before. But he's alive. And behind him, leaning heavily on a gnarled walking stick, is the witch. She's ancient. That's Isla's first thought. She must be 100 years old, maybe more. Her hair is silver white, hanging in long braids decorated with small bones and feathers. Her face is lined with wrinkles as deep as canyons. She wears layers of mismatched fabrics. Skirts and shawls and a vest covered in pockets stuffed with mysterious items. But her eyes are sharp, bright, the color of new leaves in spring. Those eyes land on Isla and stay there. So, the witch says, her voice surprisingly strong. This is the child who burns with silver fire. Isla presses closer to Arya's side. The witch hobbles into the cabin uninvited, looking around with obvious curiosity. Small. But then, the most dangerous things usually are. This is Alara, Damon says wearily, closing the door behind them. She's agreed to help. For a price, Alara adds, settling into the chair by the fireplace like she owns it. Nothing in this world is free, Alpha. You should know that by now. We discussed your price. It will be paid. Oh, I'm not worried about you, Alara says, fixing those green eyes on Isla again. I'm more concerned about whether the child will pay hers. Arya's arm tightens protectively around Isla. What does that mean? Power demands sacrifice, Alara says simply. The girl wants to control the fire? She'll have to give something up. That's how it works. Give up what? That depends on the girl. Alara leans forward. Come here, child. Let me look at you properly. Isla doesn't move. She doesn't speak, Arya says quietly. She's mute. Mute, Alara repeats, and something flickers across her face. Understanding. Or maybe sympathy. Not mute. Silenced. There's a difference. She extends one gnarled hand. Come. I won't hurt you. I just need to see what we're working with. Isla looks up at Arya, who nods encouragingly. Reluctantly, Isla crosses the cabin. When she's close enough, Alara's hand shoots out and grabs her wrist. The touch sends a jolt through Isla's system. Not painful, but intense. Like Alara's looking not at her body but through it, seeing straight down to her soul. Goddess preserve us, Alara breathes. The legends didn't do you justice, child. She releases Isla's wrist and sits back, looking shaken for the first time. The fire in her, it's not just elemental magic. It's divine, gifted directly from the moon goddess herself. We knew she was powerful, Damon says. Powerful. Alara laughs, but there's no humor in it. This child could level cities, could burn entire territories to ash with a single word. She's not just powerful. She's apocalyptic. The room goes very quiet. That's why she can't speak, Alara continues, her eyes distant. Her body knows what her mind doesn't, that her voice is the trigger. The moment she speaks, the fire will answer. And at her age, with no training, no control, she'd incinerate everything within a mile radius, herself included. Aria's face has gone pale. Then we made a mistake. We shouldn't have brought you here. If training her means... I didn't say we shouldn't train her, Alara interrupts. I said she's dangerous. There's a difference. Danger can be harnessed, directed. It's only when danger runs wild that people die. She looks back at Isla, her expression softening slightly. You've been carrying this your whole life, haven't you? Knowing instinctively that if you spoke, something terrible would happen. That's why you've stayed silent. Not because you can't speak, but because you're afraid of what will happen when you do. Isla's eyes fill with tears. Because Alara's right. Deep down, beneath the doctors and the healers and everyone saying there was something wrong with her, she's always known the truth. She could speak if she wanted to. She's just too terrified to try. The good news, Alara says, standing with some difficulty, is that you're still young. Malleable. We can teach you control before your power fully manifests. It won't be easy. It'll take years, probably. But it's possible. Years. Damon sounds strained. She doesn't have years. The rogues are hunting her. Her father's enemies are circling. She needs protection now. And I'll teach her that too, Alara says sharply. Fire isn't just destruction, Alpha. It's protection. Purification. Transformation. The girl can learn to wield it without speaking. It'll be harder, require more focus, but it can be done. She looks at Isla again. But first, we need to address the real problem. Which is, she doesn't trust herself. Doesn't trust her power. She sees it as a monster. As long as that's true, she'll never control it. Alara's gaze is piercing. You want to master the fire, child? First you have to stop being afraid of what it makes you. The training begins the next morning. It's brutal. Not physically, Alara's not trying to hurt Isla. But emotionally? Mentally? It's the hardest thing Isla's ever done. Alara makes her sit in the clearing behind the cabin for hours, eyes closed, feeling the fire in her chest. Acknowledging it. Accepting it. Stop pushing it away, Alara snaps when Isla flinches back from the heat. It's part of you. You can't separate yourself from your own soul. Isla's crying, frustration and fear mixing into a silent sob. Again, Alara commands. Feel it. Don't judge it. Don't fear it. Just feel. This goes on for days. Weeks. Slowly, painfully, Isla starts to understand what Alara means. The fire isn't evil. It's not trying to hurt her. It's just powerful. Raw. Like a river that floods its banks not because it wants to destroy, but because that's its nature. And if she can learn to channel it, to give it direction instead of just letting it explode outward, maybe it doesn't have to be destructive. Maybe it can be beautiful. 2 months into the training, Alara decides Isla's ready for the next step. You're going to summon the fire, she announces one morning. Deliberately. And you're going to hold it without letting it consume you. Isla's eyes go wide with fear. I'll be right here, Arya says quickly, kneeling beside her. She's been present for every training session, a quiet, steady presence. If anything goes wrong, Alara and I will pull you back. Nothing will go wrong, Alara says firmly. She's ready. Aren't you, child? Isla's not sure. But she nods anyway. They go to the clearing. Alara has prepared a circle of stones, not like the shrine, just simple river rocks arranged in a protective barrier. Stand in the center, Alara instructs. Isla does, her heart pounding. Close your eyes. Find the fire in your chest. That's easy now. She's been doing it every day for months. The fire is there, waiting. Patient. Good. Now instead of just feeling it, I want you to call it forward. Invite it to the surface. But slowly. Like coaxing a shy animal out of hiding. Isla takes a deep breath. Then, carefully, she reaches for the power. It responds immediately, surging upward with enthusiasm. She panics for a second, almost loses control. Slow, Alara's voice is calm. Breathe. You're in control. You set the pace. Isla focuses. Slows her breathing. Pulls the power up inch by inch instead of letting it flood out. Heat builds in her chest. In her hands. Open your eyes. She does. Silver flames dance in her palms. Small. Controlled. Beautiful. She's doing it. She's actually doing it. Don't get excited, Alara warns. Emotion makes it flare. Stay calm. Stay focused. Isla tries. Keeps her breathing steady. Keeps her mind clear. The flames grow slightly, responding to her attention, but they don't explode. Don't consume. They just burn. Pure and silver and impossibly bright. Now release it, Alara says. Slowly. Pull it back the same way you brought it forward. That's harder. The fire doesn't want to go back. It wants to stay, to burn, to spread. But Isla's stronger than the fire now. She pulls it back inch by inch. Coaxes it down like a mother putting a child to bed. The flames shrink, flicker, and finally disappear back into her chest. She opens her hands. No burns. No damage. Just her palms, slightly warm but unharmed. She did it. She actually controlled the fire. Isla looks up at Alara with shining eyes, and for the first time, the old witch smiles. Well done, little flame. Very well done indeed. That night, they celebrate. It's small, just the four of them around the table, eating the feast Arya prepared. Roasted chicken and vegetables from the garden and fresh bread that fills the cabin with warmth. Isla can't remember the last time she felt this happy. This accomplished. She's still mute. Still can't speak. But she's proven something to herself today. She's not broken. She's not a monster. She's just a girl learning to live with extraordinary power. And maybe, just maybe, that's okay. Damon raises his cup. To Isla. Who's braver than most warriors I know. Arya clinks her cup against his. To Isla. Who teaches me every day what strength really means. Alara adds her cup to the toast. To the silver child. May she burn bright enough to light the way through whatever darkness comes. Isla's chest swells with something she hasn't felt in a long time. Pride. She raises her own cup of water and drinks with them, feeling, for this one perfect moment, like she belongs. But of course, nothing good lasts forever. 3 days later, everything falls apart. It starts with a meeting. Damon has to attend a gathering of the pack's inner circle, something about border disputes with a neighboring territory. He doesn't want to leave, but Alara insists. The child is safe here. We'll continue training. Go handle your pack business. So he goes. And that's when they come. Not rogues this time. Pack members. 5 of them, all high-ranking wolves from Damon's inner circle. They arrive in the late afternoon, surrounding the cabin with military precision. Arya sees them first. She goes tense, moving to stand between the door and Isla. What's the meaning of this? She calls out. The leader, a tall man with graying hair and cold eyes, steps forward. We're here for the girl. Alpha Damon gave her his protection. She's under pack law. Alpha Damon, the man says slowly, is compromised. His judgment is clouded by sentiment. The council has voted. The child is too dangerous to remain in pack territory. The council has no authority over. The council, he interrupts, speaks for the pack. And the pack has decided. The girl leaves. Tonight. Or she dies. Alara appears in the doorway, leaning on her walking stick. You dare threaten a child? We dare protect our own, the man replies. That thing in there isn't a child. It's a weapon. One that's already killed 4 wolves. For rogues, Arya snaps. Who were trying to murder her. And will kill more before it's done. We all know the prophecy. We know what her bloodline produces. Tyrants. Monsters. Alphas so drunk on power they burn the world down around them. He takes a step closer. We won't let that happen again. The Alpha King's line ends here. Tonight. With her. Inside the cabin, Isla's power flares in response to the threat. She can feel it building in her chest, responding to her fear. No. Not now. She has to stay calm. Has to control it. But her hands are already starting to glow. You'll have to go through me first, Arya says, and there's steel in her voice Isla's never heard before. And Omega? The man laughs. You're not even a real wolf. You're nothing. Then you have nothing to fear. She shifts. It's fast. Fluid. Her wolf form is smaller than theirs, built for speed and agility rather than raw power. Her fur is dark brown, almost black, and her eyes are the same warm brown as her human form. The pack wolves shift too. 5 against 1. It's not a fair fight. But Arya doesn't back down. The first wolf lunges. Arya dodges, using her smaller size to her advantage. She darts under his attack and goes for his throat, not to kill, but to wound. The second and third attack together. She can't dodge both. Takes a hit to her shoulder that sends her sprawling. Inside the cabin, Isla's crying silently, watching through the window. Her power is building. 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 She's going to lose control. She can feel it. Ilara's hand lands on her shoulder. Not yet, child. Wait. Trust her. But Isla can't watch Arya die. Can't watch another person she loves get hurt protecting her. The fourth wolf gets past Arya's defenses. His teeth close on her hind leg. She yelps a sound of pure pain and goes down. That's when Isla breaks. The fire explodes out of her. Not directed. Not controlled. Just pure, primal rage. Silver flames erupt from the cabin, blasting through the windows and door, consuming everything in their path. The pack wolves barely have time to scatter before the fire is on them. 2 of them aren't fast enough. The flames catch them, and their howls echo through the forest. The others run. Smart. But Isla's not done. Can't stop. The fire is in control now, spreading through the clearing, consuming trees, turning everything to ash and smoke. Isla. Ilara's voice cuts through the chaos. Stop. You'll kill her too. That breaks through the rage. Arya. Arya's still in wolf form, injured, lying too close to the spreading flames. With a desperate effort, Isla yanks the power back. The flames recede, shrinking back into her chest so fast it feels like her ribs might crack from the pressure. She collapses to her knees, gasping. Arya shifts back to human form, naked and bleeding and barely conscious. Burns cover her arms where the fire got too close. Isla crawls to her, tears streaming down her face. This is her fault. She did this. She hurt Arya. I'm okay, Arya whispers, even though she's clearly not. I'm okay, sweet girl. You saved me. But Isla knows the truth. She didn't save anyone. She's exactly what that pack wolf said she was. A weapon. A monster. And maybe, just maybe, they were right to be afraid. Damon returns to chaos. The clearing is scorched. Trees are blackened and smoking. The cabin is damaged but standing. And Arya is unconscious, her burns bandaged with strips torn from Ilara's skirts. What happened? He demands, his voice deadly quiet. Ilara tells him everything. About the pack wolves. About their ultimatum. About Arya's defense and Isla's explosion. With every word, Damon's expression grows darker. Who? He finally asks. Who led them? Marcus. Your beta. Something dangerous flashes in Damon's eyes. My beta. He said the council voted. That you were compromised. That the girl had to die. The council, Damon says slowly, answers to me. Not the other way around. And Marcus knows that. He looks at Isla, who's huddled in the corner of the cabin, staring at her hands like they're covered in blood. This isn't your fault, he tells her. But Isla knows better. Everything is her fault. Damon calls an emergency pack meeting the next morning. Every member of the Moonshadow Pack is required to attend, from the highest-ranked warriors to the lowest Omegas. They gather in the central clearing of Pack territory, hundreds of wolves in human form, talking in hushed, nervous voices. Isla watches from the tree line with Alara. Aria's still too injured to move, so they left her at the cabin with guards Damon trusts. This won't be pretty, Alara mutters. Politics never are. Damon stands on a raised platform in the center of the clearing. His presence alone is enough to command silence. Every eye turns to him. 3 nights ago, he begins, his voice carrying across the crowd, members of this pack attacked a child under my protection. They claimed to be acting on the council's orders. They claimed I was compromised. That my judgment couldn't be trusted. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. I want those wolves to step forward now. Silence. No one moves. Step forward. The command in Damon's voice is absolute. His alpha power rolls over the crowd like a physical force. Reluctantly, Marcus and 3 other wolves push their way to the front. 2 are dead, killed by Isla's fire. But these 4 survived. You attacked a 3-year-old child, Damon says, his voice dangerously soft now. You ignored my direct protection. You claimed the council authorized this. Is that true? Marcus lifts his chin defiantly. The pack's safety comes before one child. That's not what I asked. Did the council vote to kill her? Hesitation. Then, no. But they agreed she was a threat. Agreeing she's a threat and ordering her execution are very different things, Marcus. You took it upon yourself to interpret the council's concerns as permission to commit murder. She's not just any child. Marcus shouts. She's the Alpha King's daughter. She carries the same cursed bloodline that's brought nothing but death and tyranny to this realm for 300 years. The crowd murmurs in agreement. Her great-great-grandmother burned entire packs to secure her power, Marcus continues, playing to the crowd now. Her grandfather was a brutal dictator who ruled through fear. Her father, he pauses for effect. Her father made enemies of every pack in the realm. That's why he was killed. That's why his palace fell. Because he was a tyrant, and tyrants always fall. More agreement from the crowd. They're with Marcus now. Isla can feel it. And you want to protect his heir? Marcus demands. You want to shelter the next generation of that cursed line? What happens when she grows up, Damon? When she learns to control that fire? She'll burn us all. Just like her ancestors did. The crowd is nodding now. Some are shouting agreement. Damon lets them work themselves into a frenzy. Then he speaks, and his voice cuts through the noise like a blade. You're right. Everyone goes silent. The Alpha King's bloodline is cursed, Damon continues calmly. They were powerful. Brutal. They ruled through fear because they could. Because no one was strong enough to stop them. He pauses. But Isla is 3 years old. She hasn't chosen tyranny. Hasn't chosen violence. She's just a child who watched her father die and has been running for her life ever since. She killed 4 wolves, someone shouts from the crowd. For rogues who were trying to kill her first, Damon counters. And yes, she lost control. Yes, her power is dangerous. But you know what else is dangerous? Condemning a child for sins she hasn't committed yet. He looks directly at Marcus. You want to kill her because you're afraid of what she might become. But fear is what creates monsters, Marcus. Fear and cruelty and forcing someone into a corner until violence is their only option. So you're keeping her, Marcus says flatly. I'm keeping her. Under my protection. And if anyone tries to harm her again, they'll answer to me. Not to the council. Not to pack law. To me. It's a declaration of absolute authority. A line drawn in the sand. Marcus's jaw clenches. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. I'm Alpha. My word is law. Or have you forgotten that? The challenge is clear. Either Marcus backs down, or he challenges Damon for leadership. For a long, tense moment, Marcus considers it. Then he lowers his eyes. Submission. Good, Damon says. Now get out of my sight. All of you. You're banished from the inner circle. Stripped of rank. You want back in? You'll have to earn it. The four wolves slink away, humiliated. The crowd disperses slowly, talking in low voices. It's over. For now. But Isla knows, can feel it in her bones, this isn't finished. Marcus will try again. And next time, he'll be smarter about it. 2 months pass in uneasy peace. Aria's burns heal, though they leave scars. Faint silver marks across her arms that catch the light sometimes. She doesn't seem bothered by them. Battle scars, she says when Isla touches them gently. Everyone who fights for something they love gets a few. The training continues. Alara pushes Isla harder now, teaching her not just to summon the fire, but to shape it. To direct it. Fire isn't just about destruction, Alara explains during one session. It's about transformation. About purification. About light and darkness. She has Isla practice creating specific forms. A ball of flame hovering above her palm. A thin stream of fire that burns a precise line in the dirt. A shield of flame that protects without spreading. It's exhausting. Isla's power wants to be big, dramatic, overwhelming. Teaching it to be subtle is like teaching a river to flow uphill. But slowly, painfully, she's learning. On Isla's 4th birthday, or what they approximate is her 4th birthday, since no one knows the exact date, Aria bakes a cake. It's simple. Honey and flour and dried berries. But Aria decorates it with candied flowers from her garden, and it's the most beautiful thing Isla's ever seen. They gather around the small table. Aria, Damon, Alara, and Isla. A makeshift family held together by circumstance and choice. Make a wish, Aria says, lighting 4 candles. Isla closes her eyes. She wishes for the same thing she wishes for every night before she falls asleep. I want to speak. I want to say the words trapped in my chest. I want to tell Aria I love her. I want to tell Damon thank you. I want to tell Alara she's the scariest and best teacher anyone could ask for. I want my voice back. She blows out the candles. The wish stays trapped inside, silent as always. That night, after everyone else has gone to sleep, Isla sits by the dying fire with Alara. You want to ask me something, Alara says without looking at her. I can feel it. Isla nods. You want to know if you'll ever speak? Another nod. Alara is quiet for a long time. Then, honestly, I don't know. Your silence isn't physical. It's psychological. A defense mechanism your mind created to protect you from your own power. She finally looks at Isla. But defense mechanisms can be broken. The question is, are you willing to face what comes after? Isla doesn't understand. If you speak, Alara continues, the fire will answer. You know that. We've prepared for it. Trained for it. But even with all that preparation, there's no guarantee you'll be able to control it. You might burn everything, including yourself. She leans forward. So you have to ask yourself, is having your voice back worth that risk? Isla's eyes fill with tears. Because she doesn't know. Part of her, the part that's lonely and isolated and tired of being invisible, screams yes. But another part, the part that's afraid and scarred and remembers what the fire did to those rogues, whispers no. You don't have to decide tonight, Alara says gently. Or tomorrow. Or even this year. But eventually you will have to choose. Silence and safety, or voice and risk. She stands, joints creaking. Think about it, little flame. And when you're ready to choose, really ready, let me know. I'll help you however I can. Then she shuffles off to bed, leaving Isla alone with the fire and her thoughts. The decision comes 6 months later. Not because Isla's ready, but because she doesn't have a choice. The rogues return. Not 5 this time. 50. An entire pack of corrupted wolves with yellow eyes and twisted forms. They attack at dawn, when the pack's guards are changing shifts. When defenses are weakest. Isla wakes to screaming. Real screaming this time, not the silent kind she does in her nightmares. She bolts out of bed and runs to the window. The forest is chaos. Rogues everywhere, attacking pack members, tearing through territory like locusts. And at the center of it all, directing the attack, is a figure Isla recognizes. Marcus. Her father's former beta has allied with the rogues, has led them straight to the pack's heart. Straight to her. Damon's already gone. She can hear his howls echoing through the trees, rallying his wolves, organizing defense. But they're outnumbered. Badly. We have to run, Arya says, appearing in the doorway already dressed. Now. Ilara's prepared an escape route. No. The word doesn't come from Isla's mouth. Can't. But Arya hears it anyway. Sees it in her eyes. Isla, no. You're not ready. But Isla knows the truth. She'll never be ready. And if she doesn't fight now, everyone she loves will die. She walks out of the cabin into the chaos. Rogues are everywhere. The pack is fighting valiantly, but they're being pushed back. Damon's in his wolf form, massive and silver gray, tearing through rogues 3 at a time. But even he can't be everywhere at once. A rogue spots Isla, changes direction, charges straight at her with murder in its yellow eyes. Isla doesn't run. She plants her feet, reaches for the fire. It answers immediately, surging up through her chest and into her hands. Silver flames erupt around her in a protective circle. The rogue hits the flames and screams, tumbling away burned and smoking. More rogues notice. Start converging on her position. Good. Isla lets the fire build. Lets it grow until she's standing in a pillar of silver light that reaches toward the sky. Every rogue within 50 yards stops. Turns. Stares. Even the pack wolves pause, shocked by the display. Marcus shifts to human form, staring at Isla with a mix of fear and triumph. There she is. The weapon. Take her down. 20 rogues charge at once. And Isla does something she's never done before. She releases the fire. All of it. Every ounce of power she's been holding back for 4 years explodes outward in a wave of silver flame. It rolls across the clearing like a tsunami, consuming rogues, purifying the corruption that twists their bodies. They don't even have time to scream. The flames burn hot and bright for exactly 3 seconds. Then they vanish, pulled back into Isla's small body with painful force. When the smoke clears, the rogues are gone. Just ash scattered across scorched earth. The pack members are untouched. The fire somehow knew who to burn and who to save. Isla stands alone in the center of a circle of destruction, swaying on her feet, silver light still glowing faintly beneath her skin. She's exhausted, drained, can barely stand. But she's alive. They're all alive. And then she looks up and sees Marcus. He survived. Managed to dive out of the fire's range at the last second. He's in human form, bleeding from dozens of wounds, staring at Isla with pure hatred. Monster, he spits. You're exactly what I said you were. A curse. A plague. He's right, Isla thinks distantly. Look what I am. Look what I did. No. The voice is Arya's. She's standing beside Isla now, burns on her arms glowing faintly silver in the dawn light. She's not a monster, Arya says clearly. She's a child who just saved all your lives. And if you're too blinded by fear to see that, then you're the real curse on this pack. Damon shifts back to human form and stalks toward Marcus. You allied with rogues. Led them into pack territory. Caused the deaths of 17 of our own. To stop her, Marcus shouts, pointing at Isla. To save the pack from what she'll become. She became a hero, Damon says quietly, while you became a traitor. He doesn't give Marcus a chance to respond. The execution is swift, brutal, necessary. When it's done, Damon turns to his pack. This is what fear makes us. This is what happens when we let terror control our choices. Marcus was a good man once. A strong warrior. But fear turned him into something else. Something that would sacrifice our own to destroy a child. He looks at Isla. This girl saved us today. Saved all of us. And if anyone still has doubts about her place in this pack, about whether she deserves protection, speak now. Silence. Then, slowly, one wolf kneels. Then another. Then another. Within moments, the entire pack is kneeling. Not to Isla. To Damon's judgment. To the choice he made to protect her. But Isla feels it anyway. feels their acceptance, their grudging respect, maybe even the beginning of trust. She collapses. Arya catches her before she hits the ground, cradling her small body against her chest. "I've got you," she whispers. "You're safe now. You're home." And in Arya's arms, in the aftermath of fire and death and salvation, Isla finally lets herself believe it. She's home. But late that night, when everyone else is sleeping and the dead have been buried and the ash has been cleaned away, Isla lies awake. Because she felt it. During the battle, when the fire was burning through the rogues, when she was channeling more power than she'd ever touched before, she felt words. Right there. On the tip of her tongue. Trying to break free. She almost spoke. Almost. And the terrifying, beautiful truth is this. Next time, she might not be able to stop herself. Next time, the fire might demand more than just her control. It might demand her voice. And when that happens, when she finally speaks after 4 years of silence, the whole realm is going to burn. The only question is, will it burn away the corruption and evil that's been festering for generations? Or will it burn away everything good too? Isla doesn't know. But she's going to find out. Because the prophecy was right. She is the Silver Child. The one who carries fire in her veins and the voice of the ancients in her throat. And someday, maybe soon, maybe years from now, she's going to speak. And her words will remake the world. So here's the real question, the one that matters. If you were Isla, would you choose to speak? Would you risk destroying everything for the chance to finally have your voice back? Or would you stay silent forever, knowing your power might save the world, but only if you never use your voice? Think about it. Because some choices don't have right answers. They only have consequences. And Isla's choice is coming. Sooner than any of them realize. If this story reached into your chest and grabbed hold of something, if you felt every moment of Isla's journey, if you're sitting there right now wondering what happens next, then you're exactly where I want you. Subscribe to Cindy's Wolfheart Stories. Because we're not done with Isla yet. Not even close. Her real story is just beginning. And you're going to want to be here when she finally speaks. Drop a comment and tell me, where are you watching from? And more importantly, do you think Isla should embrace her voice and risk everything? Or stay silent and stay safe? Because I promise you this, the answer to that question is going to change everything. Until next time, keep the fire burning. And remember, sometimes the most powerful voices are the ones that have been silent the longest. When they finally speak, the whole world listens.